taken around 1983, and it's called Barbie's Inferno. Me! It was published in Harlot, which was edited by Anne-Laurie Logan and Avedon Carroll for a brief period of time. I crumpled up and tossed away a page from the J.C. Penney's Fall 1982 catalog, on which a vast array of ceramic, brass, acrylic, and crystal faucets were pictured. The next page showed bathroom accessories decorated with a colorful parrot and suggested, "Let this pretty Polly turn your bath into a tropical paradise." I positioned a sheet of typewritten galleys for the Wiscon program book on top of the catalog page and waxed its backside. Later, I would tear out that catalog page, and because stripes of wax remained coating the places where I'd overrolled the galley with the waxer, discard it too, and discover what the next catalog page offered for sale. Viewing a catalog in this manner, page by page, is a sometimes interesting process because one discovers sections and products for which one would not ordinarily search. Most of the time, I don't pay much attention to photographs, ads, and come-ons in catalogs when I wax layout sheets. Primarily, I focus on the efficiency of the waxer, on how I thank the day, well, actually the Christmas, when my parents gave it to me as a gift. Never again will I have to deal with the gummy, sticky mess of rubber cement. Never again will I worry about repositioning a layout because the cement has dried, and peeling will probably damage the art or typed galley. Wax rolls on effortlessly and allows one to reposition one piece of paper on top of another as many times as needed, and once permanently positioned, can be burnished down as flat and as secure as any layout done with rubber cement. Sometimes, though, the brightly decorated catalog pages claim my attention, and layout gets postponed a while I peruse some fascinating product descriptions. Once, last year, when I was particularly relieved to having finished with the sepia tedium of men's underwear, and turned the page to find the beginning of the section on children's toys, I remembered the way in which catalogs push sex-appropriate toys on children by advertising them in distinct sections and with obvious gender cues. You know, for girls, dolls that make real messes to clean up, miniature kitchens in which they can dirty miniature dishes, miniature pots and miniature pans to clean up, mini vacuum cleaners with which they can help mommy clean up, etc. And for the boys, race cars, spaceships, laser zap guns, construction sets, electronic baseball games, all of which mommy apparently cleans up after they get scattered all over the living room floor by the darling little boys shown playing with the catalog toys. Well, anyway, as I waxed and tore out pages, progressing through the toy section, I recalled the whole experience of wish books and accumulating long lists and writing sincere letters to Santa Claus around Christmas time. Nowadays, my wish books are the graphic supplies catalogs from which I place orders at work. I have far more fun with these catalogs than I ever remember having with the ones from Penny's, partially, I suppose, because I can order pretty much whatever I want, and I usually get it. Whereas those old toy want lists were never totally fulfilled. These days I go through the pages of design products and jot down the names and code numbers of some inks, some replacement tips for my technical pens, templates with patterns for north arrows and ellipses, a clean drawing surface for my drawing table, some Bristol board, a few dozen sheets of Mylar Zipatone pattern, some colored felt tip pens. I send this field order to my boss, who has yet to veto a supply item, and he sends it down to finance, and voila, in 2 weeks it's Christmas. Now, granted, a lot of my fun derives from the fact that I don't have to pay the bill for all that stuff, but as I tore my way through the toy section of the Penny's catalog, it struck me that at least part of my enthusiasm might be traced to the fact that the graphic supply catalogs are not neatly divided into sections for boy artists and for girl artists. No pink-hued pages with little girls looking at pretty pictures or rapidly observing some automatic process. No blue-toned pages with dynamic little boys drawing, cutting, pasting, or otherwise doing. The Pennies catalog had not changed much from the way I remember toy catalogs of my youth. There was the same old division of toys by sex. There were boys playing with trucks that had names like Husky Endloader and Husky Wrecker, and girls fondly admiring designer dishes named Chilton Cookware Set with Make-Believe Silverstone and Wolverine Salad Service, and holding a Wolverine Bo Peep ironing set. There were two boys operating the control on an E-Mattel Hot Wheels crisscross crash toy whose main attraction seemed to be the production of exciting car wrecks, perhaps to be towed away afterward by that husky wrecker, and two girls wishing they would someday grow up to look like sun-loving Malibu Barbie or Western Barbie and someday live in a Dallas Barbie doll's house. One toy on a pink lacy page caught my attention, and I tore it out without even first using its surface to wax a sheet of layout. The toy was called Gettin' Pretty Beauty Boutique and was set up like a multiple choice mix and match face composition kit. A girl could choose from 4 skin tones, ranging from suntan Caucasian all the way to pasty white Caucasian. Yes. 4 hair colors, all slightly wavy, but definitely not kinky. Various non-differentiating facial characteristics shown on the 4 sliding panels. The kit was advertised as a makeup kit to help girls match and select the correct makeup, and supplied small quantities of makeup for experimentation. Besides being racist, this toy was designed to train a girl to act in a way she'd later be assured was her nature. I grumbled and then angrily crumpled the page into a very small ball and made a bullseye into the wastepaper bag. The Gettin' Pretty Boutique reminded me of a few episodes of my own childhood when I was given presents that were not directed so much at my interests, but at my future as a stereotype. But I never acquiesced easily to the packaged dolls and toy kitchens. Once, when I was about 11 years old, I wanted an especially unorthodox toy at Christmas time. And in order to increase the likelihood of finding it under the Christmas tree, I abandoned the old practice of filling up a whole sheet of paper with my wishes. In fact, that Christmas, I insisted that the only thing I wanted was a Lincoln Log set. The deluxe set, I said. That's for boys, Jeannie, I was told. In those days, my name had 2 syllables. They are not. That's what I want for Christmas. I stood firm. My reading that fall had included a lot of novels about American settlers and farmers on the prairies, and I was eager to build a covered wagon and cross the great American desert, transformed from the basement floor, and build shelters for courageous American pioneers. My parents figured I'd forget all about that by the time Christmas came around, and so I got a Barbie doll for Christmas. I hadn't forgotten, and it was quite a disappointment. My brother Steve got a flashy red fire engine, which he promptly took to the sink in order to fill its reservoir with water, and squirted our dog Tippy until the beagle retreated for the day underneath the living room sofa. My other brother, Rick, got the Lincoln Log set, which of course made the Barbie doll all the worse, since he quickly made it clear that the wood construction set was off limits to me. I forget what vintage that Barbie doll was, but she had long blonde hair tied in 2 places and was not the evolved model who could later bend her knees and elbows. She wore a fashionable striped swimsuit, came with a carrying case, a party dress, a sports outfit, a wedding gown, and a catalog of other accessories and wardrobes for sale. She was a boring toy. Undressing and dressing her wasn't the sort of pastime that would keep me occupied for long, and not identifying at all with this unappealing fashion model made role-playing sorts of games seem silly. Barbie languished in her box for a few weeks after Christmas, and I went back to playing down in the basement with a collection of plywood, hardwood, a blackboard, and an easy chair, which I pretended was the cockpit of my spaceship zooming through the galaxy. I would draw the ship's course on the blackboard and navigate through clouds of deadly ions and space gas. and landed on exotic planets and encountered all sorts of strange creatures. Soon Rick and Steve tired of their new Christmas gifts too, and the chance presented itself to get to try out Rick's Lincoln Logs. Cautiously, to avoid interruption, I carried the box of interlocking logs, roof slats, clips, signs, chimneys, stands, and gables down to the basement. On impulse, I took Steve's fire truck, too. And the box of Barbie paraphernalia. After building the largest two-story Lincoln log house I could with the available pieces, came to about 18 inches high, I dressed Barbie in the elaborate wedding gown and installed her into the second story and stood back to admire my handiwork. It was an impressive structure, I thought. Barbie, with her unbending arms stuck out through the window, reaching toward me, looked like she was crying for help. And with the fire truck parked nearby, the obvious scenario of a burning house occurred to me. Fire was leaping up the sides of the wooden building. The fire truck was racing across town. Would the truck arrive in time to douse the blaze and save Barbie and let her get married? Bruising my knees in the brave race to save the burning log cabin, breaking speed limits along the way, I, the brave firefighter, saved Barbie again and again. But something about the situation lacked drama. I felt a bit cynical about Barbie's sincerity. And I looked around the basement for something to make the game a little more realistic. I found some matches on my father's workbench. I lit one, and I tossed it through the ground floor window. Quickly, I dashed back to the washing machine, waited for the fire alarm. Seconds later, I screeched the alarm with an appropriate falsetto and pushed my knees and the fire truck into another mad race with the clock. Halfway there, my pretended anxiety became real when I noticed smoke seeping through the downstairs window. When my fire truck arrived on the scene, I could see that the fire had actually caught on inside the log house. And I desperately unwound the water hose, pressing the spray button, and pointed the hose through the little window opening. Unfortunately, the water reservoir was only half full, and the water only dribbled out the end of the hose, with little pressure backing it up. Without thinking, I tried to blow the fire out. The fire leapt up higher. Barbie's lacy wedding dress had caught on fire. Fine strands of plastic hair blackened and curled into kinky, smoking tangles. An awful, disgusting smell filled the basement, and smoke began to sting my eyes. Abandoning realism, I picked up the fire truck in my arms and ran, not crawled, back to the sink by the washing machine, filled its reservoir, and ran back to the now blazing Lincoln log building. Barbie's plastic face was collapsing inward with the heat. And one of her arms was bending in a way that even the later, more evolved Barbies would never do. The smell of melting plastic was mixed now with that of burning wood, and flames crackled a half-foot above the scorched roof. If Barbie made it to the church now, she was going to have to go nude and disfigured. But I thought at least there'd be a chance to save most of the Lincoln logs. Perhaps I could hide some of the more severely blistered ones. I aimed the toy fire truck's hose determinedly at the conflagration, whose progress was not much diminished by the pitifully small stream issuing from the truck's reservoir. And even that was rapidly losing pressure as I desperately punched at the spray button. The Lincoln logs were providing fine, dry tinder for the chemically fed fire. Melting plastic ignited sporadically and with hot purple flames until the green roof was totally consumed by fire. I held the 1/4-inch hose between my fingers, but now had backed up a little distance from the disaster, protecting my forehead from the heat. My outstretched arm frantically waved the slackening stream of water at the blaze, but Barbie slid from view as I watched. Her surrealistically curved arms dribbling down through the window after her unrecognizably melted and quite bald head. The addition of new fuel now created a new flare-up, and the chimney collapsed into the crackling fire. Things were not going well. They got worse. My father appeared at the bottom of the basement steps now, perhaps concerned about the wails and screams of the brave firefighter. Indeed, the fight to save the Lincoln Log building and get Barbie to church on time now seemed to be a minor task compared to that of saving the basement. And I was panicky. Desperation did not obscure the fact, however, that I was in big trouble. Instead of making another run for a refill of the reservoir water, I paused to think of ways to explain the illicit use of my brother's Lincoln Log set. My father declined to wait for the story, and in a few moments had dumped a pail full of ice-cold water over the blazing Lincoln Log rubble and me. The Lincoln Log set was soon only smoldering red lumps, as was my backside. Time has blanked out the details of the humiliating punishment that followed that episode, but ever since then I've been a little bit hesitant about lighting matches and positively antagonistic to dolls of any sort. The experience did convince my parents that appropriate gifts could turn into disasters, and I didn't get any more Barbie dolls. A couple Christmases ago, I managed to convince them that with hardly any trouble at all, that what I really wanted was a waxer for Christmas. My mother sighed and only half-heartedly protested, "But you don't even own a car, Jeanne." Jeanne, since I've dropped the IE and my name has only one syllable now. So I explained about the disadvantages of rubber cement and the wonderful advantages of wax for layout, and very little was said about the necklace that my mother had thought would have made such a nice gift.